Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Empire Sports Talk. I am your host, Roman Gennaro, and today is a very special episode, not only because I believe this is our 20th episode, but because I have a good friend and a co-host today. I usually do guests, but I'm working in a co-host for this week. My good friend Ty Kelly. Welcome to the show, Ty.
Oh, thanks, man. Glad to be here.
All right, you ready to get to it? Let's get to it.
Yeah, let's get to it.
We're gonna start here with a couple of things that's happening around the world of sports. I always like to start, just a refresher. Something that happened earlier today. Mark Teixeira of the New York Yankees announced that he is retiring from the league effective at the end of the year, and he's been a very effective player for the 13, 14, how many years he's been in the league.
Yeah.
He was very productive coming up with the Rangers, and then spent a brief half season with the Braves, part of a trade, and then traded again to the Angels, and then settled with the Yankees. And this is the final year of an 8-year deal that he signed. He's 36 years old. His production has faded a little bit. He used to be a 30 home run guy. Now he's right around 18, which is still productive, still good. But he is on his way out, as is Alex Rodriguez. So from a veteran standpoint, that team's going to look different going into next year. Also, sort of in the vein of contracts, Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald in the NFL were both signed to 1-year contract extensions today, a couple hours ago, I believe. So any speculation that this coming year was their last year together is not true. We have at least till the following year, which is good because Carson Palmer is 35 years old and he had probably his best year of his career last season. So it'll be good to see. I had him as a backup on my fantasy football team last year, and he proved very, very effective when Aaron Rodgers went through a rough patch. And most notably, one more thing about contracts. Russell Westbrook signed a 3-year extension to stay in Oklahoma City. He had said earlier that he wasn't going to sign an extension with Oklahoma City, which speculated that he was going to go to the Lakers in the offseason and all this sorts of stuff, and he's staying put. And he threw a little bit of what you might say shade at Kevin Durant, because in his contract press conference he talked about loyalty to your team and loyalty about this, and it's speculation of if their friendship is still intact. And Kevin Durant has said that Russell Westbrook isn't necessarily his favorite person, isn't necessarily his best friend, and isn't the easiest guy to play with, which if you've seen Russell Westbrook play, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
They're both shooters, and it's hard to have a team with two shooters, which is going to make the Warriors very interesting, because they're I'm in the category that thinks that this Warriors experiment won't work, because you have Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, 4 guys who, if they were on other teams, would be number 1 guys, and all of a sudden you're telling me that one of them is the 4th guy on the team, is the number 4. And we've already seen Draymond Green's gotten in a little bit of trouble with being arrested for a altercation with a fan, and then the Snapchat incident. Yeah. And Klay Thompson has said in relations to the shots he takes. He takes a lot of shots, as does Steph, as does Kevin. He says, I'm not sacrificing anything, for lack of a better term. He said, I'm not sacrificing anything. So it might be a little interesting come the NBA season what we see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was time for Russ and KD to part ways.
Yeah.
I think it was honestly time, because both of them are superstars. Both of them want to be that main guy on their team, and quite frankly, they both can't. It's impossible for them both to be superstars.
They're both alpha dogs.
Exactly.
They're both.
Exactly, and they both want the ball the whole entire game in clutch situations, and they both had to fight for that. And now it's Russ's team. Russ is saying, I'm taking over. Now this is my team. KD, go ahead. See you later, bud. I
was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago on the show where when the deal went down, when Kevin Durant signed away, I was like, oh, the NBA is done for. Like, this is going to be the worst year of the NBA. Like, there's going to be 2 good teams for the next 8 years, or however. But then as free agency got underway and it all settled down and everybody signed where they signed, I was like, the league's in better shape now going into this next year than it was last year.
Right.
Because, guys are leaving their super teams, or there's just one super team now, and guys who are playing big supporting roles are now taking their turn to go and be the guy. And so now I think we're in better shape in the NBA than we were.
Yeah.
Which is funny to me.
You thought that for the next 8 years it was going to be the Cavs and Golden State.
Which it could still be, because they're still good teams. But
it could be.
The Pacers are one of the most dangerous teams going into next year with Al Jefferson, Jeff Teague, Paul George.
Yeah.
The Knicks have a big four that might take a couple of years to build. But anyway, so it was interesting to see Russ, kind of sign after he said no. Like I'm probably gonna move on, and I think he can opt out after next year. But still, that's a year they didn't know if they would have him or whatever. So, and then another big thing is the Olympics are starting. The opening ceremonies are tonight.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you and I were talking earlier. It's a great opportunity for unity and loyalty, and everybody in America is going to be rooting for the U.S. team, which I think, in a time in this country where we need something to all root for, the same thing with the elections, and not everybody likes the same political party or the same the same anything. Not everybody agrees, but when the Olympics come, suddenly you agree.
Yeah.
If you're an American, you root for the U.S. team and all this, and here come the Olympics, and it's one of my favorite things, the Summer Olympics. I like the hockey in the Winter Olympics, but I'm a Summer Olympics guy.
Yeah.
Do you have like that one event that you're like really into? Do you have this one one thing?
Yeah. So Roman, I'm a big fan of the 100-meter
right.
sprint.
I would die if I tried to run 100 meters.
Me as well. But I would rather sprint than run the long distance. I do not know how those men last as long as they do, running the pace that they do. Those men can run 26 miles at a 5-minute pace per mile for that long. How do you sustain that pace for that long? It baffles me. The training that has to go into that blows my mind.
That's endurance is what that is.
Yes. Completely different
crazy
contrast
stuff.
from a 100-meter sprint.
Yes.
You think those guys...
Or a 90-feet sprint in your case, because you played some baseball.
Exactly. So, my eyes will be drawn to that. I want to see if the old Bolt can go for another title.
He says this is his last one, but so did Michael Phelps like 8 years ago. So who knows?
Not to put any pun in this, but he is electrifying. So
I like it. My event, and it's something that I didn't really get into until the last Olympics and thing. I really like the 2-on-2 sand volleyball. I really like that. Basketball is fun, even though U.S. usually wins by 50 points and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I really like water polo. It's a really interesting event to me. It's really violent. They have an underwater cam, and you just see like legs like kicking, and I've seen like some swift kicks under the water. And it's just like, man, like, and people get like pushed under, like the person with the ball will like grab their head and go like this, and if your head gets down there where they're kicking, that could be like the worst concussion of your life.
You could get knocked out.
But that's kind of my event. I'm gonna be watching a lot of the events, like this. One of my friends and his family is really into the swimming and diving, which is really cool, but I'm gonna be zoned into water polo, watching basketball. And I was really interested to hear, I don't know if you heard this, they've decided to bring baseball back in the 2020 Olympics.
I have heard that.
So baseball's coming back, and I think they did they take it out because it was like none of the people were watching it or whatever, but
I don't think it was bringing enough revenue, not bringing enough of an attraction, enough crowds.
I mean, I get that, but if you look at some of the events that are in the Olympics, like archery and rowing and stuff, like that's cool stuff. But like if it's the Olympics and it's about pride in your country, this country's biggest sport, whether you argue or not that it's still the pastime or it's still the main attraction, is baseball. And baseball is much more international than it used to be. Even 8 years ago, when it was taken out of the Olympics, it's much more international. The Mexican team is probably going to give the U.S. a run. The Dominican team.
Yeah.
Who else?
China.
Japan. Ichiro, who plays for the Marlins and is approaching 3,000 hits, he's 42 years old, and he said he could play for another. He could play till he was 50, and I don't doubt him.
I believe it.
So I'm
Man's
interested.
a legend.
I'm interested to see that.
Yeah.
And it was 8 years ago, but there's already some guys in the league that are stars now that have played. In the last time it was in the Olympics, Dexter Fowler, Jake Arrieta, Steven Strasburg, those guys were on the team, and those were the guys that were young at the time. They were just starting their careers, but now they're stars in the league. So if they're ready 4 years from now, if they're still playing, I'll be glad to see. Can you imagine Bryce Harper and Manny Machado and Jose Fernandez on the I guess Jose Fernandez would play for Cuba or something, but like Manny Machado and Bryce Harper and Mike Trout on the U.S. team, that would be
it'd be pretty epic to see those guys. But going back to what you were talking about, the water polo. So
water polo is crazy.
It is crazy, and the thing is a lot of us we tend to prejudge. We judge these sports before we actually give it a shot of our own. So I was thinking to myself, water polo. Oh my gosh, that's a stupid sport. All you have to be able to do is wade in some water and throw a ball in a goal. Yeah, that's that's what I was thinking to myself. But then I actually got an opportunity to try it out myself when I was playing baseball in college. And I tell you what, I have a huge and all new respect for water polo players because, I mean, just wading in water. We'd play a 3-minute half. We'd play 2 3-minute halves. And you would be...
Oh, you have experience.
Yes.
Okay.
You would be amazed at how quickly your legs go out and how quickly you get out of breath and you want to like swim over to the side and grab a wall. Because you don't realize how much energy you are exerting, how hard you are fighting to stay afloat, to get that ball and to score.
It's like a combination of football, hockey, and water. It's like two of the sports that like take the biggest toll on you, and then the fitness you have to be in the water.
I quickly learned my lesson when I got this huge cramp in my leg. I literally couldn't move my leg because I was so tired and I exerted so much energy. And then I had a guy kept splashing me in the face and trying to kick me. I lost it on him and I threw a punch at him. And I got kicked out of the game. So I lost my cool.
I always thought you were a pretty mild-mannered guy. No, I'm not so sure.
No, I swung at him. I didn't connect, thankfully, for his sake. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I've
seen some stuff in the Olympics. They get pretty intense. It's
you get competitive, man.
It's my favorite event.
Yeah,
nothing beats that for me. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's that time. The next 2 weeks, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But our main topic today, we're gonna get right to that right here. Just a couple of days ago, August 1st was the MLB Trade Deadline.
Yeah.
And I don't know the exact number, but this year was a crazy year for the trade deadline. Well, first of all, they moved it to August 1st, the middle of the day, August 1st. Forever, it was July 31st. It was like a staple of the league. Everybody knew 31st. And I don't know the exact number, but they set a record this year for most transactions at the trade deadline. 68?
No, it was
68.
It was up there.
Moves.
Close to 70, yeah.
But you paid a little bit of attention to it, and I know I was watching it, and a lot of teams, this is the point. This is a good point in the year. This is the point in the year where the winning teams trade to get those pieces that'll help them move to a championship, and the losing teams, it's not over for them yet either. The losing teams, this is the point where we see all their prospects come up because they know, okay, this isn't our year, so let's retool. So they give away some of the contracts that they need to load off, and they bring up the guys to give them experience to come into next year as a starter. So this is one of my favorite times because you get to see all these young guys, and we've already seen a bunch of them. David Dahl for the Rockies, Alex Bregman for the Astros, Andrew Benintendi for the Red Sox. And Benintendi and Bregman were drafted a little over a year ago. Like, the 2016 draft just happened. Both of these guys were top 10 picks in the 2015 draft, and they're already in the league, which is crazy.
It's mind-blowing, honestly.
And you know, with all these, do you have, whether it be, you know, big league level or system wise, do you have a winner of the deadline of the moves that you had seen? Do you know?
Well, the biggest move that stood out to me, and congratulations, Cubs fans, you win the cake, in my opinion, getting Aroldis Chapman.
It's a big move.
That is a huge move for them.
He's had a little bit of a learning curve, though. He blew a 4-out save in his second appearance, I believe, but he's settling in nicely. I've seen him a couple of times.
And that's natural. He's in a new environment. He's got to get used to that new environment, and he's probably a little nervous, probably a little anxious. You know, the Cubs are an incredible team this year. I mean, so much talent. And
I think, unless you're a Cardinal fan, then you root for the Cubs because they're, you know, everybody who follows baseball knows the Cubs story that it's been since 1908. But I'm a little worried, like if the Cubs win, like, the world might end. You know? If that's the truth, I kind of hope they don't win because the Braves are supposed to be good in the next couple of years. So you kind of want to wait on that.
Yeah, naturally. You know, speaking of the Braves, that Kemp transaction, you know, I'm a little nervous about it.
It's interesting you bring that up, though.
Yeah.
Because, however well, first of all, I'll get to the first point. My winner on the big league level in this deadline was the Rangers. And they did a lot. They got Lucroy after he turned down a deal with the Indians because the Indians could not guarantee him the starting catcher spot.
Right.
And so he wasn't going to waive his no-trade clause. But apparently his no-trade clause did not include the Rangers, so there was no conversation. Like, you've been traded to the Rangers, just not in your clause, so go. They got him, and they also got Carlos Beltran, who has been around for a long time and is one of the most productive bats you could possibly have. He's one of those guys like David Freese. Like, you get to the playoffs, or Madison Bumgarner, you get to as good as you are, you get to the playoffs, and
you could single-handedly change a game.
It's a new gear.
Yeah,
you know, he's one of those guys. Yeah. The winners for me, though, real quick, on the minor league level, on the in the system, the Yankees. It's interesting that you brought up the Aroldis deal because the Aroldis deal helped them out a lot.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees for the past couple of years have had almost the worst farm system, almost dead last, right in that bottom five. They haven't really, you know, brought up a big prospect in a long time, probably since Derek Jeter, to be honest with you, or some, you know, a homegrown guy. They usually shop their talent.
Speaking of homegrown guys, I'm sorry to cut you off, but one of my buddies growing up, Ben Gamble, I played against him, played with him. Congratulations to him for getting called up the other day. That was pretty awesome for him.
Good work.
You know, getting to see him. This is the second time he's been called up this year, but getting to see someone that I grew up knowing, playing against, playing with. And getting to see him live out his dream and of all teams, the Yankees. I mean, New York Yankees, incredible. And he ascended all the way up from I think 2010. Got drafted in the 10th round by the Yankees and went all the way up through their farm system. And you don't see that often with the Yankees because they're always trading, always buying
the top level.
Yeah, they're always getting the top level
team.
Exactly.
You know, I was thinking the other day, there's not a lot of teams that you see bringing up that prospect. I mean, especially not the big ones like Bryce Harper and Steven Strasburg, and the Nationals were lucky to get both of those guys on their side. But Chris Bryant and the level of buildup that you see with them from being drafted to all the way up.
Right.
And the Yankees are never one of those teams. And I was thinking, you know, the Mariners haven't had that really since Griffey, one of my favorite players ever.
Yeah.
Shout out to him for the second straight podcast of being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It's great.
My favorite guy. You know, they're one of those teams. The Athletics don't usually bring up a lot of guys, but a guy from UNF here in Jacksonville is now in Double-A Midland with Oakland, so maybe soon. But anyway, what I was saying was the Yankees. You know their system. They went from bottom five to probably top five systems on this trade deadline. The Andrew Miller trade with the Indians, the Aroldis trade with the Cubs, brought them a ton, almost no talent at the top level, which is strange for the Yankees. But Clint Frazier, who's like number 5 on the top 100 prospects. The Yankees now have, and I think they had one before this. They had one guy in the top 100, and it was that 6'7" outfielder Aaron Judge. I think he was like 30th in the top the top 100 prospects on MLB Pipeline, and now they have 7. So they have
did some work,
probably the most of any team in the top 100, which is just amazing. For them. So they really, really turned around the future of their organization, because their organization, from a winning standpoint now, I mean, the Yankees are always going to be winners. They're always going to be, even if they're having a losing season, they're always going to be winners. But they've really turned their
future
around. Thank you. Their future, because they really didn't have anybody down there. Now they have. I mean, I remember seeing Clint Frazier get drafted and these guys, and now they're going to be Yankees, and so it's interesting that they made such a drastic turnaround, and it wasn't even at the big league level, which is better for them, because that's a tough division this year. You have the Blue Jays and the Orioles and the Red Sox all at the top. Yeah. It's like an NL Central, but the AL East. It's like the NL Central last year. The Pirates win 97 games, come in 3rd place. Yeah. How does that happen? Yeah. But you had said something interesting about Matt Kemp, and we talked about the Braves a little earlier. The Braves are interesting. They recently got a new GM, John Capalella. They had John Hart, and they made a change, which they needed to do. They needed to make a lot of changes. But John Capanella's made some interesting moves, but now that I'm seeing it take shape, and he's gaining a reputation. He's doing some things. First of all, there were teams that wanted some of their pieces. They wanted they thought Julio Teheran was going to get dealt. They thought Nick Markakis was going to get dealt. They thought all these things. But part of the package for all of these deals where we want your minor league talent, because the Braves have one of the best farm systems. They have for a decade at least had one of the best farm systems in the league. And John Capalella just said, no, I'm not doing that. He refused to give up his minor league talent. And so he's gained a reputation not for saying no, but for having ice in his veins, because he won't even entertain the idea of I have a plan, and these guys are in that plan, so you can't have them. Exactly. And that could be a rough thing, but we need more people like that in this game that are just so. I mean, we've seen Theo Epstein with the Cubs. He was so he came in, he said 5 years from now, and this is year 4, and look where they are. Yeah. And
he wasn't kidding.
No, he was not. Yeah. And so for Capalella to say, hey, no, like, I'm not going to do this. And then some of the moves he made, check this out. So you did a little research on this, and I did too. The Braves and Padres did, and the Braves and Padres have had a little bit of work together in the past with Kimbrel and the Upton brothers, and they've done some work before. So they're a popular destination for Braves guys. A year ago, the Braves traded a lot of their pitchers, a lot of good pitchers, Alex Wood, Jim Johnson, for Hector Olivera, a at the time 29-year-old infielder who was owed $62.5 million by the Dodgers, and they got him in the trade, and it didn't work out. No, and he didn't live up to it. He got into some trouble. He got suspended, and his suspension's not up yet. And so that was just a bad contract for the Braves to have. And I don't know if you know anything about this, but you're a baseball guy. Can you really quickly give us an idea of what a bad contract is?
Well, bad contract is essentially what you just said. You have high hopes for this player to come in and make an immediate impact, an immediate difference. and that player, for some reason or another, comes in, they get hurt, or they
get in trouble.
Like you were talking about before.
Domestic violence is what
exactly.
Alabama is
or
problem.
They just don't produce like you thought they were. Maybe they've gotten older. Maybe there's pressure on them to produce. Whatever it may be, they didn't live up to expectations, and that is a bad contract.
So, and it's not like the Braves could wait, because it's not like their prospects like Dansby Swanson, who's 23, or Ozzie Albies, who's 19.
Yeah.
They were getting a now currently 31-year-old guy, and he went to the infield, which is where his position didn't work. He went to the outfield, didn't work there either, and he was a big reason why the Braves started 0-9. So they had to unload it, and this was the brilliance of John Capellelas. Check this out. They worked a direct swap. Oliveira goes to the Padres. Matt Kemp, former MVP finalist, comes to the Braves, and the Padres gave the Braves $10 million in cash, and for some reason, the Dodgers and Padres agreed to take Oliveira's contract, the whole thing. And I don't know how he worked this, and somehow worked it out to where the Padres still owe Matt Kemp, but the Braves will say, we'll take some of it. So they got the Padres to eat a lot of that contract. And so now, for the next 3 years, the Braves get him for like $25 million over 3 years. So that's $8 million a year.
Yeah.
That, and they were trying, because the big move was, were the Yankees going to move Brian McCann? And the reunion with the Braves is probably the most likely situation, probably after the season. But the reason it didn't happen now is John Capellella even still was trying to get the Yankees to eat most of that contract.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's somehow convincing these teams, or at least arguing with them, to eat contracts of players while taking players off of his hands, that is brilliant. That is so genius to me. That is ice in your veins.
He's got some kind of sales technique. I don't know what he's doing up there in the box, but he's doing something.
You can see it coming together now. You can see. You were saying something about Matt Kemp earlier. You were saying you weren't too sure.
Yeah, I just, you flash back a couple years ago, and you put Kemp back on the Dodgers, and he's an MVP quality player.
I'm getting my phone, because I'm going to give you a couple stats here in a minute.
Yeah, no. I appreciate the stats. I'm always big on stats, but you take a man who comes out of the gate one year crushing it. I mean, hitting home runs. He hit
a home run off the great Tom Glavine.
Having a big time average. Batting like around 350, hitting a bunch of home runs, driving a bunch of people in, getting those ribbies, and then he gets hurt, and then he comes back and he's just not the same, and you wonder, is he getting older? Is his production going to continually go down? Or is this Braves move going to revive him? Because you've seen that sometimes just players just aren't the right fit for a certain place, for a certain organization, for a certain manager, whatever it may be. They just don't fit. They don't live up to expectations. And Kemp has made it well known that he has wanted to play for the Braves since he was.
He's an Oklahoma guy.
I mean,
he's from Oklahoma.
Yeah, he has wanted to play for them for quite some time, and it was like a dream for him.
Yeah.
So he's super pumped.
It'd be a dream for me.
I mean, yeah, but so this could be a revival of sorts with Matt Kemp. I mean, it could all come together. The Braves could surprise a lot of people next year.
I'm going to use that revival point in a minute to get us to our next point. But I'll give you a couple stats. First of all, bringing Kemp in gives probably the best cleanup hitter the Braves have had since Brian McCann or even Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
He's an RBI guy. He last night in the game against the Pirates, who are a good team, there was bases loaded and he hit. It wasn't a grand slam, but he hit a rocket that was somehow caught only because Starling Marte was in center field.
He'll run some balls down.
He's got blazing speed.
Yeah.
I have no idea how he got to that ball, but
Yeah.
anyway, it provides protection behind Freddie, who's the only power in the lineup. The Braves are last in home runs.
Yeah.
They have been all season. And Matt Kemp is no slouch. He's bringing 23 home runs into the lineup, which is now the most on the team. He's still hitting home runs, still hitting for average, 262, not the best.
Oh yeah.
But
don't get me wrong. He's an incredible player.
The last 2 years, especially last year, he started as an MVP. Like he's had a great start. But sometimes if you don't have the team around you, it's hard to keep your pace.
Yeah.
So now, if the Braves, we're seeing the Braves building. But I'll give you a couple stats here. Kemp's presence is definitely felt so far. In the last 3 games, the 3-game series against the Pirates, the Braves were 2-1. They scored 16 runs and had 30 hits in that 3-game series.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 5 games of the season, where the Braves were 0-5, 5 games versus 3 games right now. 5 games, 17 runs and 29 hits.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already seeing, and those statistics sound very similar. It's different managers, but you have to think, the top statistics, the 16 runs and 23 hits were in 3 games, 2 of which they won, and 1 more timely hit in that other game, and they would have won that other one too, be 3-0. And those first 5 games they were 0-5, and that's 5 games versus 3 games. So to get 29 hits in 5 games and only 17 runs, but then to get 30 hits in 3 games, they had 15 hits on what's today, Friday. They had 15 hits on Wednesday night.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
And I'm going to test your skill here.
Sure.
So you believe that is all Kemp?
No. But here's what I'm saying, and I'm a big believer in this. Sometimes, and this is why I liked Maben and Swisher last year. Sometimes if you're not winning, if you're not on the top, you need guys, whether they're the most productive or not. I mean, Swisher's not the most productive guy anymore. Neither. Maben had a great year. I believe Maben should still be there. But you have guys, Swisher and Maben, both came out. They were both products of the TBS Braves generation, as were we. So a lot of the current players grew up Braves fans, like Matt Kemp and like a lot of players. So they were there, and they were energy in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Nick Swisher brings more energy than anyone I've ever, in a clubhouse, than anyone I've seen. One of my good friends' older brothers played college baseball against Swisher, and I've told this story in the air before, but I've never told it to him, so he's hearing it now. It was a rain delay, and Swisher and his teammates went out to the warning track, and his teammates buried him in the warning track, and it just kind of unified both teams, and just the goofiness, and Swisher and Maben wanted to be there. They brought energy. They brought enthusiasm, which if you're a losing team, you need desperately, just like you need that excitement of when your team brings up a prospect. You need something to grab onto. I'm not saying all this is Kemp. I'm saying this is the excuse my reference. This is the dead cat bounce of a good move. This is, they're more energized now because with the combination of Freddie and Kemp, pitchers now have to pitch to one of them.
Yeah.
And so because they're having to do that, guys are getting more pitches. Ender Inciarte extended his hit streak to 15 games. It's the second longest active streak in the league.
Yeah.
Eric Ibar, who's struggled this year, he's on pace for the worst OPS in history, I think, for a season. But he's got a 10-game streak, and so guys are just, they're not going to win this year, of course, but because of that move, and I'm a big believer that you need to change things up, if for nothing, to give fans and a team hope for anything, and so no, it's not all Kemp, and no, but just those numbers don't lie. Like, their offense is better since he's been there than it has been all season.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a rejuvenation of that team.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So, does Kemp have unnecessary pressure on him to turn this team around, to be that guy that sparks this team?
I don't think he's got pressure because,
they're a losing team already.
They're a worst record in the league.
Yeah.
They're not going to turn it around. The Nationals are good. The Mets are good. The Marlins are good. Mark my words. 3 years from now, the NL East will be the best division in baseball because the Phillies have a lot of young pitching that's getting better. Adam Morgan and that other guy, what's his name? I forget. But they have 3 or 4 guys, really good pitching guys. They got some young good hitters. The Marlins have some of the best hitters in this league, Christian Yelich and Derek Dietrich.
Yeah.
Just Christian Yelich never misses the ball. He always hits it. And the Mets pitching, the Nationals are Bryce Harper, and the Braves are coming up now. So a couple years from now, the NL East will be the best division in baseball. I don't think though now that Kemp feels that pressure because he knows he's not there to help them win, but. With him and Freddie and Ender and these guys that they have, Ender's a young guy. I think this is his 3rd year. And so Swanson and Albies will probably be up before the end of the year. Like they're using those guys as, okay, you're the base and we're going to build around you.
Yeah.
So no, he doesn't, I don't know if pressure's the right word because it's still kind of Freddie's team.
Yeah.
It's still Freddie and Julio. Matt's just there. Matt's happy to be there. I think Matt knows that he's past the point where, because when he was with the Dodgers, he was the dude.
Yeah, he was the man.
He knows that maybe that's not the case anymore, because even when he was in San Diego, they brought in Justin Upton, they brought in all these people. So he knows. So he knows that he's not that he knows he's not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
But I just think he loves being in Atlanta. Because he grew up in the TBS generation and from Oklahoma. There's a picture of him 10 years old wearing a Braves jacket. And he was talking to Tom Glavine in in an interview talking about, love watching those guys, love the World Series.
It was pretty easy being a Braves fan growing up. We were like 14 years straight.
And I was looking at that wall during one of the games. I was like, man, we got to get one of those up there real soon. I think the last one up there was 2013. And so I was talking about Brian McCann earlier, and he was kind of the guy. He was Freddie was young, or for a while he wasn't there. Chipper was getting older. The pitchers had retired, so for a while it was Brian McCann's team, and he had a good thing going. He's from Georgia, which is the Braves like to get those guys from Georgia. Georgia's one of those hotbeds for baseball, like Texas or North Carolina for football or basketball. Georgia's kind of like that baseball state, and so they get a lot of Georgia guys. Brian McCann kind of had a good thing, and then he chose the money when he was a free agent, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to, because if you get the money and then you get hurt, you need that money because you can't play anymore or whatever. He took the money and he went to the Yankees, and he's still good. He's still productive, but the thing with the Yankees is they have a code. They have a dress code of sorts. He was known for his kind of balding look with the glasses and all this stuff, and the number 16. He was the number 16. He goes to the Yankees, changes his number, shaves his head, gets rid of his glasses, and the Yankees don't have names on their jerseys as part of their unity thing, which is fine. But he kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And he's kind of hasn't had those same type thing. He's getting older now.
Right.
But my point being, and you had some interesting points on this, is he kind of took the money instead of the ideal situation that he had.
Right.
And we've seen that in other sports. Dwight Howard was with the Magic, and he was the Magic, and then he took the money to go to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And we've also, seen some other things. David Freese kind of had a good thing going in St. Louis.
Right.
Signed away to the Angels, disappeared. And we've seen that. Sometimes guys are in the perfect situation, and then they go after the money.
Right.
And you had an interesting point about that, so I'm going to let you go from that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I want to give Brian McCann the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
And let's say, it wasn't about the money. It was about those pinstripes, man.
Yeah.
I want to be a New York Yankee.
It's the Yankees.
Yeah, it's the Yankees.
Regardless of how you feel about the Yankees or the Red Sox, they're the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Right. Now, if you were playing for an MLB team and the Yankees called you up and said, hey, we want to pay you a lot of money. We want to pay you more money than you're getting paid right now. And we want you to come play, and we want you to be our guy. We want you to be our catcher. Mm-hmm. I would have a hard time turning that down. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt for that.
Sure.
But on the flip side, when you're talking about taking the money, you know, you see this so much. Albert Pujols is one of my favorite
Sure, of course.
examples.
Yeah.
You know, that man was the best hitter in baseball when he was playing for St. Louis, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He was the best hitter. And you take a guy who's in his...
Well, wasn't he in that 2011 World Series with David Freese? Was it?
Yeah.
That was one of the greatest World Series I've ever seen. I think it has ever been.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the greatest things.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was his last year in St. Louis.
Yeah, and that's his last year. And then you think, okay, Albert, you are the man in St. Louis. When people talk about St. Louis baseball, when they talk about Cardinal baseball, they talk about Albert Pujols and what he had done in the time that he had been there. And then he takes this huge contract because
I don't even know how big it was, but it was the biggest at the time.
Yeah, he wants, what was it, 10 years that he ended up getting on his contract?
Something like that,
Some crazy number, which that blows my mind because I think he was like, what was he, like 31 when he signed the contract? So he's going to be in his 40s at the end of the contract, which blows my mind.
Not everyone is Ichiro.
Exactly. He is not Ichiro. He's dealt with way more injuries than Ichiro, I believe. And so he goes from the Cardinals, goes to the Angels, and has a absolutely horrendous season compared to...
A couple of seasons, I think.
A couple of seasons. He's having a better year this year. If you look at his production, he actually has a good amount of RBIs. He's up there at the top for RBIs right now.
I just feel bad for him and Trout. They have no pitching. They have nothing else to back them up. They have Andrelton Simmons, one of the best defensive players in the league, but there's no pitching there.
Exactly.
So they're down at the bottom of in a division that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Safeco's a hard place to play. Felix Hernandez. Minute Maid Park, Dallas Keuchel, reigning Cy Young guy. The Rangers are good again.
Yeah,
it's a tough division.
Yeah, that's tough. And so you take him out of his comfort zone. You have a player that, well, once I said it, I say it again, the best hitter in baseball at that time, in my opinion.
Nobody was better.
You could maybe argue Miguel Cabrera, but
he still is.
But
I've seen him do some stuff recently.
Exactly. Now, I think Miguel Cabrera is one of the top 5 hitters in baseball right now. But you could put Albert Pujols at his time with the Cardinals towards the end of his stint as one of the best hitters in baseball, if not the best hitter in baseball. And then you take him to the Angels, and all of a sudden he just disappears. It's like, where's Albert? You know, I remember watching ESPN and all these commentators talking about...
You forget about them almost.
They're talking about, where's Albert? Where's he gone?
Yeah.
Where's the production? Where's the home runs? Where's the RBIs? Where's that Albert that we thought that we were going to get? All this hype that surrounded him. Whether it was him feeling the pressure of living up to expectations.
I mean, with money like that, I mean, how could you not?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you get paid that much money.
That's the thing with big contracts. I mean, Robinson Cano struggled in his first year with Seattle, and you know, we see it all the time. Dwight Howard struggled in his first year with both teams that he went to after the Magic. I think he's going to have a bit of a resurgence in Atlanta because he's from Atlanta, and we've seen a bit of a hometown complex in the NBA right now. But yeah, there's pressure with those big contracts because you have that self-doubt creeps in. Like, I mean, you want to have that confidence, but also it's like, am I worth it? Like, do I deserve this? And so yeah, I mean, and speaking of money and contracts, and you know, we talked about Kevin Durant earlier, and you know, they're building a super team.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody the other day, I've mentioned this to my dad, that the idea of a super team only works in the NBA.
Right.
Only works in the NBA because there's confined space. There's only 5 people. Yeah. You couldn't do that in the NFL. You couldn't do that in the MLB because I have long believed that the MLB is the one sport or baseball is the one sport where one guy cannot carry a team, where you need the whole team. Because you could have the best pitcher in the world. Let's say, for example,
Dodgers are a perfect example.
Dodgers or Mariners with Felix Hernandez. Best pitcher in the world, Clayton Kershaw, Felix Hernandez, whoever you think it is, you put them at the top of your rotation.
You got another 5 days.
You're winning once every 5 days. That's 200
Yeah.
win percentage. That's not going to cut it. Or you could have Miguel Cabrera or Bryce Harper in your lineup, but no pitching. I mean, like I said, Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols and Andrelton Simmons, 3 really, really good players. No pitching.
I think you had Trumbo in the mix for a little while.
Trumbo too, yes.
At that
Trumbo
time.
originally was there.
Yeah.
And you have those guys and no pitching. Like, you can't, it doesn't work. And so the Yankees, I think one of their goals or one of their ideas, this may just be a rumor, but it was interesting, in making all these moves and getting all the minor league guys, Clint Frazier, and getting rid of Chapman and Miller and all the guys, and possibly McCann after the season, Beltran, was to free up cap room to potentially, I don't know if you heard this rumor, create a super team with Jose Fernandez, Bryce Harper, and Manny Machado. As exciting as that would be, that's not a super team.
No, it's not.
That's 3 high contract guys that will prevent you from getting the guys like a Beltran,
the necessary pieces,
the pieces that you need to make it good. I mean, look at Machado now. He's in Baltimore, and Trumbo's leading the league in home runs over there.
Yeah.
But all those little pieces they have around them, J.J. Hardy, Ryan Flaherty, Giovanni Gallardo's having a real good year.
Yeah.
All the guys that they have, it's just, you can't, even if those are like 3 of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
But, you can't do, that doesn't work.
Yeah, well, you just think about, you have a 40-man roster.
You can't build, especially in baseball, you can't build a super team.
No.
Because you can't get 9 guys for, even the Yankees, the team with the highest payroll, cannot pull that off.
No. And going back to Golden State, I think it's going to turn around and bite them in the butt.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, super teams are bad for sports.
Yeah. I mean, look.
They're exciting.
Now, I think, give them a year or two, and I think I could very easily see Golden State.
I don't think Durant will be there in a year or two.
Well,
if they win this year, I said this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about basketball. If they win this year, he could opt out. And if they win, I think he will. Because, A, he could go back to Oklahoma City, convince Russell Westbrook to stay there, and bring the champion. He could pull LeBron, and he could go back to Oklahoma City. Or he could pull LeBron, too, and go home to Washington with John Wall and Bradley Beal, which I thought would have been the best thing for him to do, and the coolest thing to play with those guys. And so I don't know if he'll be there, especially if they win. But I think it'll take him a while to figure it out.
I just think that, and as cliche as this may sound, there's too much talent on one team.
You got like I said,
too many superstars.
You got superstars playing third and fourth banana.
Yeah.
You have the best backup unit, or at least they did last year. A backup unit, a second unit that could have made the playoffs by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, so who's the guy? Is Curry the guy? Is KD the guy? Is Draymond the guy? Is
Clay the guy?
Clay the guy?
Yeah.
Is Iguodala? Is he going to come out and be the guy? I mean,
he's one of those Beltran guys. He's like the veteran that just shows up on the team and makes it happen.
Yeah,
makes a difference.
I mean, his defense is impeccable.
Oh my gosh!
But that's a whole nother story that we could go on a tangent about. But I don't even want to get onto that. But I honestly, I equate the Golden State. They are a better version. I would say they are like Heat 2.0 when LeBron went to the Heat.
Okay.
And
I'm on board with that.
You have Heat. You have on the Heat. You have Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. Those are the big 3.
And then Ray Allen got there at one point.
And then you have Ray Allen.
And Udonis Haslem and those guys.
And so it took the Heat a year. Now, they made it to the finals, but it took them a year before.
Even the league of the super team is proving you need a backup cast. You need a supporting cast.
Exactly.
Like, even them. So I don't like the idea of the super team, and it really wouldn't work in baseball or football because you need even Andrew Luck, one of the better quarterbacks in the league, gets sacked more than any other team. So if you're getting sacked, you can't throw the ball.
There's too many parts going into football, too many parts going into baseball for there to be a super team like
Julio Jones, you could argue. You could argue Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And
I think DeAndre gave him a run for his
well,
money.
well, you could argue. You could argue that it's Julio Jones, but they don't really have any. Last year they didn't have any other weapons. They didn't have like that second guy. They had Roddy White, but he was getting older.
Yeah.
They've added some guys coming into this year, Mohamed Sanu, and they just added Lance Moore today.
Mm-hmm.
But last year it was once the league caught on. Yeah, I mean you saw in his stats, Julio Jones led the league in yards and receptions and touchdowns by far. And then
trust me, I know he was on my fantasy.
Mine too. And then he just fell off.
Yeah.
And he proved like even the best players in the NFL need help.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you put them together, they need help.
Yeah.
J.J. Watt, one of the best defenders.
J.J. Swat.
They had no quarterback.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They were winning 7-0.
He can sack a quarterback 7 times in a game and still doesn't
Yeah.
Help the offense.
The idea of the super team is not only bad for sports, but in any other sport but the NBA, it doesn't work. That was my point.
Wow. We'll see how well it works because who's going to be the ball hog?
I'd have to say Durant because he's as good as Steph is, and he's always been good. Forget this crap that he's only been this good for the last 2 years. Absolutely not. Like he was this good as a rookie. He almost single-handedly took the Warriors to the playoffs the first year, and they were terrible before they got him. I think they got the 8th pick in the draft, and it was him. And because that's how bad they were, and he took them there first year. He's always been that good. He just finally his team is good, so you're noticing, and he stepped it up a little bit.
Surrounded by talent.
He stepped it up. He did get better, but he's always been good. I mean, you can see that in college. He was a freak in college.
Yeah.
There's an old video of Steph playing at Davidson, and LeBron is on the sidelines freaking out of how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of the super teams. I don't like the idea,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought the Warriors were insufferable watching. I couldn't watch them last year. Now, I don't know if I could watch. They're not going to be as good. They might win 65 games, but because there's going to be an identity crisis there for a while.
What do you think about the Cavs going into next year? Do you think that they could repeat?
They could if they made a move for a big man.
Mm-hmm.
And for those listeners, I did talk about some of this last week, but you'll hear it again. They are a little bit weak. They don't have they lost Mozgov. They lost Dellavedova. It's a
big loss in my opinion. Mozgov is a big loss.
They don't have Varejao.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Love is a question mark. So it pretty much puts all the big man responsibilities on Tristan Thompson, which was the situation they had the first year that they went against Golden State and they lost because they had nobody down there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If they make a move, yes. But if they don't, I think the East belongs to the Pacers this year.
Really?
Yes. Paul George, Jeff Teague, one of the most underrated players in the league. Jeff
what about
Teague
the Raptors?
They'll be there. They will be there. But they lost Bismack Biyombo, so that would be a big void to fill. So we'll have to see. Anyway, I just love to see all the rookies this year. It was in the MLB, going back to where we were. Because coming into this year, it was like, the rookie of the year is Corey Seager's to lose. Like, he was the guy, and he's having a great year.
Yeah. Don't
get me wrong. But until he was injured, it makes me sick that he was. Trevor Story was the guy. He was having the year.
Oh my gosh.
But now you're seeing, other guys. You're seeing like rookie pitchers, and you're seeing the Braves brought up a guy. Did you see this guy? It was first game of the Pirates series. It was what's his name? It was but he had four. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning of that game, and then shut him down after that. It was nerves and shut him down. And so you're seeing all these pitchers making their debuts, and all these players. You've had so many guys come in the league. Bregman, like I said, David Dahl for the Rockies, who's very quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the league. My family's from the state of Alabama. He's from Mobile. He's a hometown dude. And so it's that time of year where rookies are becoming relevant in the league, and making the push, and it's exciting. But now I think I don't know who to say the rookie of the year is.
Was
now.
it Jenkins?
No, Jenkins was last night,
Yeah.
and he did well too. He's another rookie. He pitched well.
I'm trying to think. Was it Rob Whalen?
Yes, it was Rob Whalen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say Harold, but he's not on the team anymore because they traded him for a switch hitter for the Rangers that's going to be really good, a power guy. But it's that time where the rookies come up, and the Pirates have brought up Jamison Taillon, and they're bringing up another guy here soon in a little bit, and just all these guys just making their first, and it's amazing. If you have a team that's struggling, because the thing with baseball, whether you're playing, and you can attest to this, or as a fan, if you're losing, and I've said this before, but if you're losing and you're in a situation where you don't have that mentality that no matter how bad you are, like the next day is the day you're going to turn it around, the next day is the day you're going to start a winning streak. If you don't have that mentality, then why are you playing the game? And I believe that bringing up highly talented prospects that are ready, or making a big trade like Kemp or something like that, gives the team life, and it gives the team hope.
A spark.
And like you said, it wasn't all Kemp that they've had a great last 3 games, but it gives them it gives people excited. I mean, if you've seen the games at Turner Field, they're not exactly packed. But people get excited about that.
The Braves are trying to find an identity right now.
And
They are. And I think they have a lot of young talent that's going to come up and that's going to help shape their identity. And then you'll have the veterans like Kemp, that will be the staple of the team.
Yeah. And if they can keep him a while, because he said in the letter that he was there to stay. I don't know if that means long term. I'd like that to mean long term. I think he's a good pickup.
Now, how old is Kemp right now?
31.
31.
So he's got
a lot of good years left in him.
He's got some good years.
Yeah.
I think he just ran into a point. I don't think he's trending downward. I think he ran into a point where, and we've seen it, like Alex Smith in the NFL was the #1 pick. And everybody's like, oh, he's going to be so good. And then they were ready to say bust when he wasn't. But then they fired their coach and they hired Harbaugh, who was a former quarterback, came in there. And they were in the NFC Championship. It's just the right situation. I don't think he was in the right situation to begin with, but then they kind of had a log jam in the outfield, and so it kind of wore on him a little bit, I guess. And then San Diego's just not a hitter's place. It's it's so big, and
it's not a hitter's park.
It's not a. I mean, it's smaller than it was, if you can believe that, but it's still. And so
Atlanta. I
think he's in the right situation now. So I think we'll see something good. I think we'll see. He's gotten into a little bit of a slow start with the Braves, but effective. He's gotten a few hits. He's gotten walks. He draws walks. He's hit the ball hard, and that's one thing that maybe the casual baseball fan doesn't realize. Just because he doesn't get a hit doesn't mean it wasn't a good at bat. I mean, you could hit a laser that happens to be tracked down with the bases loaded, like Marte, or just right at a guy, or a guy makes a stellar play.
Oh man, I've had many quality ABs that have resulted in outs.
Exactly.
It's just the name of the game. Yeah. It's just where the ball falls.
But and hats off to John Capilella for making the moves and attempting to get teams to eat money for him. That's brilliant. We went a little bit over our time. But we don't got to be anywhere. So hey, but I want to thank you for coming on. I think this was fun. I'll try to see. If you guys like the idea of a co-host, I'm sure he'll be glad to come back, and we'll see if we get some listeners to chime in and tell us if they liked the idea of 2 hosts. And maybe hey, it'll be Empire Sports Talk with Roman Gennaro and Ty Kelly from now on. Who knows? But yeah, you love baseball just like I do. You love all sports too, and it's just a good, it's just good to talk about sports, and it's even better to talk about sports with your friends. And so even when you watch TV, Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock, all those people, they're friends with each other. They might not hang out all the time, but like there's mutual adoration and respect, and they enjoy each other's company. Like that's the way it should be. Talking about sports or being on a podcast or being on television should be fun. And playing sports too, and I think with all the money that's changing hands and all the money, the big dollars that are out there, they lose sight of that.
Exactly.
And it kind of ties back into our topic, but this is just fun. It's a fun situation to be able to talk about sports and to do this, and again, I thank you for coming, and
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully
man.
we can do this again really soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is all the time we have for today. For Empire Sports Talk, this is Roman Gennaro and Ty Kelly signing off. See you next time.